Previously on Podcast Without Pretense.
Guys, I don't think any podcaster has suffered more than I have in the history of time, and I feel pretty sure about this.
So I told that maitre d', listen, I am one of the hosts of the best podcast of 2014. You can look it up, bestpodcast of2014.com. I'm there. And then he gave me a seat.
A couple weeks of climbing does not turn you into Spider-Man. It doesn't.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Strickland.
I'm Maya's actor.
And I'm Eric Sandine.
Uh-oh. Is that delay true?
That pause, or is that just... that pause, it wasn't just pregnant. It was pregnant with like quadruples.
Yeah.
All right. Well, together we decided, let's be evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys want to talk about anything before we have this discussion about this thing that I picked I feel badly about?
Let's knock this out of the way first, and then finish up on a nice happy note, as opposed to the opposite way.
It should be pretty quick, at least for me. I didn't take notes this time, but yeah. All right. So here's the spiel. We watch shitty movies on this show. It's mostly a test to see how well we can devote our attention spans to something that does not deserve it, because frequently we watch stuff with second screens in front of us. So our challenge is to watch some of the worst movies that we've ever discovered through whatever streaming service we can that we all share. And then we devote 100% of our attention to it for as long as we deem appropriate. And at that point, we can walk away. We can stop watching the film after we've given up, or we can invite as many distractions as we want into the experience, including, but not limited to, a second screen, alcohol, or another person in the room to chat with. So this week, the movie was my pick. I decided to go with a science fiction film instead of a horror movie, although technically this was a sci-fi horror movie. And it was called Let's Be Evil. And I'll go ahead and start. I got about 20 minutes into this movie before I paused it the first time. Somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes. I didn't write it down.
I got to a whopping 7 minutes and 15 seconds because I got a text and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to look at that. I want to break this right now. How about you, Eric?
I got 25 minutes into this. I got 25 minutes in. I thought it was going to get better. I had hope.
You'd be wrong.
So here's the thing, is that there's the foundation for a decent science fiction psychological thriller / horror movie here. It just never comes together. And part of the problem is the opening scene of the movie, which bears practically no impact on the rest of the film. And the way the movie opens, it seems like this is going to be a super traumatic, bloody film. So let me give a quick synopsis of what the movie is about. Now, I didn't take notes, but I will at least give you an overview of what the film was about. So the movie opens on this dude in the shower. He's got a shower curtain drawn. The shower curtain suddenly gets drawn aside, and he looks down and he says, "Stop, don't sneak up on me like that." And it's his daughter. So first of all, ew, daughter sneaking up on her dad in the shower, and like, boo.
She's like 5.
Yeah, she's a child. It's not like she's like 22 or 18.
No, when I say daughter, I mean young daughter. I don't mean adult. I don't mean like this is some sort of incest porn thing going on. But still, ew. So she pulls the shower curtain aside to surprise her daddy, who's in the shower, and he jokingly chides her for it, and then is immediately shot dead by what we presume is an intruder. They never show what exactly happened, I don't think, do they? Just that he gets shot, and that the blood splatters her face, and that's the opening of the movie. We then skip forward in time where the young girl has grown up. She's taking care of her mother, who's now an invalid, and she is waiting to hear back about a job opportunity she has applied for, finds out she gets the job, but it's a super secretive job where she's going to have to essentially move out of her apartment, but they're going to send the money so that she can continue to take care of her mom. and she just has to agree to these very restrictive non-disclosure agreement terms. She goes to this location. It's a building where they disavow the fact that this business is even in the building. So it's super secretive. She gets in an elevator that goes to a super duper secret subterranean floor. So you're getting this feeling like this is like top secret stuff that she's been selected for some reason. This is one of the big problems I have with this movie. You never find out why they chose her and the other two adults that are in this movie. Like, there's no explanation for how they came about choosing these three people.
Yeah.
It turns out that she and these two other adults, one female, one male, are supposed to look after, although not interact with. So I question why they're even necessary. They're supposed to look after a group of children who are supposed to be accelerated, super smart kids that are using augmented reality glasses to accelerate their learning and pick up massive new skills. The three caretakers also have to wear augmented reality glasses whenever they're in the facility, which is all the time. They're not allowed to leave without express permission. And without them, they can't even see where they're going because it turns out the place isn't even lit. It's just with the augmented reality glasses that you're able to see around, which I thought was an interesting idea, although problematic. But
yeah, I kind of like that one. I was into it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, at least an idea of like, how can we isolate characters? We can use technology to create that level of isolation. That was kind of interesting to me. But again, there's no explanation of why these three people, out of presumably the hundreds of applicants that submitted to this organization, why they were picked over everyone else. So other than the fact that you figure they're all desperate for money, but come on, we're all desperate for money. So,
right.
That bothers me that you never learn why these three people are picked. They don't seem particularly special. Like, there's nothing that's connecting the three together. Right.
And they don't really develop any of them enough for you to even question why they're there or special. Like, you don't learn that much about them, so I don't care.
Exactly. Yeah, you never learn anything about the other two characters. The only one you know anything about is the protagonist, and all you know about her is that her dad was murdered when she was 5, and her mom's an invalid. That's about all you know, really.
Yep.
So again, they don't really seem to do anything with the kids. Like, they're supposed to check on the kids at night to make sure that they're actually in bed when it's lights out, but that's about it, which you could figure you could do with a fucking camera. I don't know. Also,
Diggs seems to interact with the kids, because there is the whole thing about like him solving the puzzle with them or whatever.
That's Darby.
Darby, right? Tiggs is the girl.
Tiggs is the other one. It's Jenny, Tiggs, and Darby.
Yeah. So like he interacts with the kids doing that, and we get some like one-off line about him having a super high IQ somewhere early in.
147 is not super high, but yeah.
Whatever. I just remember them throwing that in and being like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
I'm like, whatever, my IQ is higher than that, so suck it, Darby. Well, I mean, yeah, but even when he's solving the puzzle, it's not like he's like, they're specifically told there's an artificial intelligent construct that is the liaison between the three caretakers and whatever the mysterious organization is that is behind this whole experiment in the first place. And the artificial intelligence construct keeps telling them, don't interfere with the kids, right? Like, don't try and talk to them, don't touch them or whatever, just let them do what they're doing. It's never explained why the caretakers are even necessary, because they don't seem to provide for any of the needs of the kids. They ultimately, the way the story unfolds is the kids turn against the caretakers and start to terrorize the caretakers. It takes way too long for this to happen, by the way. It's mostly just concentrating on... Yeah, it's mostly concentrating for the majority of the film. It's just saying, how weird is this, huh? And you're like, yeah, it's weird. I can't wait to find out what the explanation is. You never get it. You never get an explanation.
But the thing is, the characters literally do spend time. Tiggs and Jenny, they literally say these phrases to each other. This is weird, huh? Yeah, it's weird. This is actually in the movie, and I actually have a note. It's 32 minutes, 49 seconds. No sign of evil yet. Because when these kids do turn, I think like there's another maybe 20 minutes to go in the movie. You've been sitting there for 60 minutes, and it's just like watching some shitty boarding school thing. It's like, okay, there's some counselors and here are your kids, and they don't really interact, and one of them talks.
With like a slight amount of intrigue inserted by the fact that, I don't know if this happened yet or not in Jonathan's notes, but the fact that when they go to sleep at night, the glasses that they have to wear seem to be projecting into their brains or reading their thoughts or something like that. Like that gets inserted at like one point. Yeah.
It's never explained. It's actually very early because it happens the first night where the lights project against the protagonist's closed eyelids, and then she has these very convincing immersive dreams that are essentially her reliving her childhood trauma of seeing her dad get shot in front of her,
which goes nowhere.
But again, we're not given any reason for that either. Yeah, so we don't know why the glasses are doing this. We don't know if it's the kids doing it or if it's the overall experiment doing it, because the kids do turn out to be evil little bastards that end up hunting down the counselors. The counselors really just interact with each other, not the kids. You only get one who ends up really talking to the protagonist. So then once the movie does make this turn where the kids are clearly after the counselors, there's essentially an indication that one of the children, a young girl, is on the side of the counselors. Like all the other kids have gone bad. And so the protagonist is trying to rescue this young girl. And then you get the big twist, which is that the young girl turns out to be evil after all. So the people you thought were evil turn out that they're actually evil. That's not a twist, by the way. That's actually just a straight line. That's what a straight line looks like. A twist would be if the people you thought were evil turned out to be good, or the people you thought were good turned out to be evil. But when the people you think are evil, not a twist. Anyway, so at the end of the movie, the little girl is all Machiavellian and saying, we've been playing with you. We like to play with the things we're hunting. And then the movie ends with the protagonist being projected into a simulation of her apartment, only her mom's not there. But otherwise, it looks like it's the same day that she got the phone call that she was going to be given this job, which, again, that's how the movie ends. So you're like, well, what does that mean? Is she trapped in a simulation of her life? Is she reliving the day? Because it doesn't really look like it, because enough stuff is different from the beginning of the movie. Like, what's the point of any of this? And there's one other thing I forgot to mention that I should mention. So you've got these super high-tech augmented reality glasses, like well beyond what we could actually build today. And they are meant to be, again, the conduit between the experiment and the counselors to give them the directions they need to take after the kids. And it's also what allows the kids to complete their lessons. Every other piece of technology in this movie looks like it came from 1983. Like all the computers are like these ancient IBM compatible machines. All the phones are landlines with like the base unit and then the cord receiver. Everything else in this movie, all the technology is at least 30 years old. And again, as I'm watching it, I'm like, this had to be a decision, right? They had to make a conscious effort to set dress this way. But nothing is explained. And the problem is, it doesn't make it mysterious. It just makes you wonder, what were they trying to say? Yeah, because nothing is coming across as effective.
They could have solved it easily by like dating it in some way. So we knew we were in some alternate timeline or something like that. But that didn't happen. They didn't care enough to tell us that.
I have no other notes. So take it away, guys.
I have a ton of notes. Okay, so your notes. The reason why I had tons of notes is because I was so bored and hoping something's going to happen in the movie. I don't want to read half of this shit because nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like, one of the points we haven't hit is the fact that the music is super, super intense, and they put it really loud, and the captions say the music's intense, but usually nothing's happening on the screen. Literally, the girl goes like up an elevator or something. She looks out a window, and the music gets louder and louder. It's like, and then what happens? She goes to the office. Okay, all right.
I guess it also behooves us to mention that the protagonist in the movie, I think she was one of the writers of the film, and she was definitely one of the producers.
Yes.
So I have a feeling that this might, I have a feeling this might be kind of a vanity project. I think they were also all British, but they all do it as an American, American accents. So they're all coming across as Americans, but I think it was a British film.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we mentioned that this movie, for the large part, takes advantage of like a first-person perspective. So we see through their VR glasses, and it always tells you whose eyes you're seeing through. So you have Jenny up there, or Tiggs, or you'll have Darby, and you don't have a lot of like all-seeing shots. When they go into like the dream sequences, you see that in the beginning. The movie has this third-person kind of thing. I thought that was kind of inventive at times. They had the ability to link into somebody else's glasses, so Jenny could be seeing what Tiggs is seeing, and she could experience that. I thought that was kind of a neat idea. You don't run into a lot of problems with the glasses losing power. They do seem a little sketchy every now and then. But here's something I got to ask you guys. Is there anything that they show us about these kids that says they are either extraordinarily powerful, have weapons, have ways to like just really mess with these people? Because as far as I can tell, they're just a bunch of shitty little kids. And these are three, 20-something-year-old people. They can beat up the children at any time if they needed to. But they don't. If they're being killed by these people, why don't they just fight back?
I think the easiest explanation is to say that the kids have essentially leveraged the technology. Like they have control of the technology of the glasses. So they can control what the people are seeing, and therefore, if you don't have the glasses on, you can't see anything anyway because nothing's lit. Again,
except
this is problematic.
At the end, she's got a flashlight. And it's got a freaking flashlight, so you can. But at the flashlight.
At the end, however, the main protagonist thinks that she's rescuing a little girl and doesn't realize that she's playing into their evil plan. So they're literally playing with their victims. At least that's the implication I got from the movie. To be fair, though, I was not paying attention during the last 15 minutes very much.
Okay, when in the last 15 minutes is when everybody dies, by the way, or the people who start dying die. Darby goes through like a vent because, again, these kids have trapped him underground because whatever. So Darby gets pulled out, he leaves a vent, and then he gets attacked by children. So the shot is from the viewpoint of one of the other counselors, or whatever you want to call them, teachers. And you just see this shot of Darby there. And then you just see these little hands. They literally just like kind of grab him like this, like on his shirt. And they're just kind of, they're not punching him. They're not clawing at him. They're not stabbing him. They're just like, grab. And then Darby's like, I'm stuck. I can't do anything. I'm like,
well, to be fair,
little kids just flail.
British men are immediately paralyzed by kids grabbing onto them. It's a fact, especially if they're pretending to be American.
And then he's suffocated with a plastic bag, which is a hell of a way to go.
Yeah.
But as this is happening, you see his right arm is completely free. So for some reason, he doesn't go like pull or poke or hit. He's like, okay, I've accepted my fate to die at the hands of children.
The movie demands that he dies at that point, which is why he can't fight back.
Darby's one of the least likable characters, and they established that pretty early. Another thing that they show us, for some reason, I want to know if you guys have an answer to this. The kids just randomly shriek really loudly. They first show up, and then they shriek, and it's scary somehow. Like, it seems like they're giving away their position. Why would you be scared of that?
Yeah, I think that it feels to me like the filmmakers are making major assumptions about their choices that the audience just isn't in on, right? Like they make the assumption of, all right, well, we've explained this enough so that this is terrifying, or all right, this situation is so strange and unusual. It is unsettling and scary. But instead, it's, again, just confusing. And like I said at the top, I feel like there's a foundation for a decent science fiction thriller horror movie here, but nothing was handled properly. Like, we weren't given enough explanation or enough of an indication of what's actually happening. There needed to be a scene where a character got more of an implication about what this experiment really is all about. There's no indication that anyone remotely involved with the experiment even is aware of what's happening. But then you're left with the question of, are kids just luring random adults to come look after them so that they can kill them? And why would they do that?
That was how I ended the film. I was like, wait, so the kids are just luring people here to kill them? Okay. That would have been fine if that had been slightly better explained by like the end.
If so, who the hell's making them lunch?
That's true. It could be a robot. Well, it's Ariel, which was an acronym that I can't remember what it stood for.
Right, but you still have to get the materials somewhere.
That's
like
true.
Someone somewhere has to sign a fucking invoice somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, Ariel is augmented reality information advanced learning. That's what it stands for.
Ariel.
Yeah, and so what was the other thing about this? So there is a scene that it's Tig's death. I want to touch upon this. So Tig is screaming at the end and she's being pulled out. They've got me, she says. And then you see her throat slashed, but then she disappears. Like just kind of like pixelates out. She's gone. So I was wondering if the idea was that do Tiggs and Darby even exist at all? Because they say that Jenny can't see anything without those glasses. So maybe in the beginning of the movie, she puts on the glasses and there's two people. Here's Tiggs and here's Darby. So maybe they don't exist at all, which would be somewhat creative. But
I think they have like physical content once or twice, though. I think they have contact with each other physically at least a couple of times, like just a touch on the shoulder or something, which you obviously could not do with just a visual hallucination.
That's true. But yeah, Tiggs does disappear at some point.
Yeah. Like that's what I thought as well when Tig died. I was like, oh, so she's just in a simulation and nothing else is real. Like that's what I got from that too. But then again, not really explained. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, my notes, it says 13 minutes to go and it's boring still. 8:21 left. Did I watch the right movie? Because I thought the movie was called Let's Be Evil. And I'm like, there's nothing really evil about this. This is just kind of this shitty episode of Black Mirror. That's what it felt like. A really bad episode of Black Mirror that goes on way too long. It's only 82 minutes, okay? It's 1 hour, 22 minutes. And it's not like it's really paced poorly. There's just not a lot going on.
There's just not enough content. You're right. It does feel like a really bad episode of Black Mirror. It feels like it would never actually pass for a Black Mirror episode because there's just not anything there. It's not saying anything. Black Mirror is all about making a commentary about technology and our dependence upon it, how it changes us and the negative ways that can turn out, and a horror story version of what can happen because of our reliance and love of technology. This film doesn't manage to do that. It could have, because of the augmented reality stuff. There was some really interesting potential there, but you mentioned also the first person perspective that you get a lot of in this movie. I got tired of that super fast. It wasn't appealing to me at all. I felt like it got a little too gimmicky. I mean, I understood because it forces the audience into a perspective that the character is seeing. So therefore you're not going to notice something that a character doesn't notice because you're seeing what the character sees. I get it. But it reminded me a bit too much of the first person perspective sequence from that wonderful film adaptation of Doom. And Doom, man, it felt like that. It just felt like a full movie version of the first person perspective segment of the Doom movie. I felt like this was a huge wasted opportunity on behalf of the filmmakers. And I'd really love to just sit down and say, like, what was your goal with this? Like, Do you even have an answer of who was behind the experiment and for what purpose? Were these kids that were being developed specifically as weapons? Because that was the feeling I was getting. But
I'd love to do that interview, having explained that I haven't seen the film yet to hear the answers, and then do it again, saying, "Okay, so I saw the film. What are your answers now?"
I mean. Well, I mean, and the answers might be the same either way. The answers could be, well, this is what we wanted to do. They just failed to achieve it, and there's nothing criminal about that. It does happen. Like, I've certainly set out to do a project and then 2/3 of the way through realized that I was off track.
There's lots of times that they introduce interesting things, but never go further or explain them. So there's Jenny wakes up at one point to her favorite song playing. And of course, Ariel, the AI, says, well, yeah, of course I played your favorite song. We never go into like, oh, it's creepy that the robot knows her favorite song, or we never get into like what the project knows about Jenny or anything. We're just like, oh, here's this creepy thing. There we go. There's one.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like they were trying to stack up creepy things and be like, okay, we've succeeded, but he's creeped out now.
The closest I would get with the song thing is that when she answers the phone to accept the job offer, she has the music video for Kids in America playing in the background, and then that happens to be her favorite song. But if you go with that, even if you go with, oh, they picked up the song over the phone, how do you then draw the conclusion that that's her favorite song? So yeah, I agree. Like if they had explored a bit of how do they know so much about Jenny, like there's an implication again at the end where the little girl gets all evil. Like the girl that Jenny was convinced she was rescuing turns out to be the ringleader of the kids. There's a moment there where you get the feeling that they know a lot about Jenny, right? They already know tons about her. There's no indication of how they learned it or why that's important, or even did they choose her? If they did, why? And again, there's never an explanation for why they need to have that element of her dad being murdered when she was a girl, because it doesn't factor into the movie in any meaningful way.
Not at all. Oh yeah, and some point towards the end, our main characters kill some other guy because they can't solve a puzzle.
Oh yeah.
So the kids who trap this guy, we don't know where he's from. He's one of the other caretakers, I guess. And then Darby has to solve a puzzle, and he can't, and they killed the dude in the room. Like it was a very like simple Saw-esque like little experiment, but yet again, no one cared. We had no one cared about any of the characters, so like no one cared.
Let's talk about this scene. So there's a guy who's it's kind of tied down to a chair. He looks like a security guard or something, and he's got like something like a gag, and he's like yelling, and somehow Darby and everyone realizes there's some kind of puzzle that needs to be solved to save him. And so they show us Darby, and he's like, his hands are going all in the air, and you never see what exactly he's doing because we never see it from Darby's point of view. So I assume his AR glasses showed him a puzzle, and or maybe there was just an unfinished special effect that we should have seen, because he's just kind of like this. He goes, I can't figure it out. So they go ahead and try to open the door anyway. Dude bursts into flames. The guy in the chair just bursts into flames. He's struggling a lot for a little bit, and then he kind of just slumps. Then he disappears. The kids appear and like smoke, and then they disappear. It's like, okay, interesting concept. Another maybe one of those, maybe they're just fucking with everybody because they can't touch him. Maybe it's not even real. So maybe that's the case.
Right.
But there's a lot of, like you were saying, Eric, like there's a lot of like things that they introduce that could be cool. There's one other scene where the AR glasses are like, I think they're focused on Jenny because she's had them on her charger, and we see their perspective, and it starts wigging out. You start seeing there's all kinds of malfunctions happening. You're seeing all these error messages pop up, and eventually it restarts and recalibrates by the time she puts it back on her face. And I'm like, wait, that's pretty interesting. Is this happening to anybody else? What does this mean? And we don't really even go into that. So they had so many interesting concepts, and there's just a lousy story.
Because we don't know. because we don't know anything about the experiment and the people behind it, and who is at least nominally in charge, assuming that the kids aren't just running the asylum at this point. If we assume that there are still actual human adults who are running the experiment, then the way I interpreted that scene was that the kids had figured out how to rewire the system so that they had the control over the augmented reality glasses. The system no longer had control. So all those error messages that was the moment where the kids essentially hack the system. And then they reboot the system. And then from that moment forward, the system is compromised. This, by the way, completely my interpretation, because it's never addressed directly or otherwise in the movie. So it could be that. It could just be that, hey, shit sometimes happens. Computers sometimes fuck up. And it had nothing to do with anything else. So, yeah, I mean, you could argue that I'm being wildly generous with my interpretation. So, yeah, this was
better than what the filmmakers gave us.
Yes. This movie, like, there was nothing outright awful about it other than the fact that it was just lacking some cohesion to actually make it an effective story. It had a lot of promise, but and on a technical level, it was fine. Wasn't fantastic, but it was fine.
Yeah.
It just was a really shitty screenplay when you get down to it. Like, it just didn't have enough there to make it effective in any of the genres that it overlapped. So it could have said something interesting about technology, could have said something interesting about a girl who has a traumatic past, and somehow that's playing a part. I think maybe the only reason that we got the fact that she saw her father be murdered is so that it would raise the question in the viewer's mind of, is something wrong with her? Is she crazy? And therefore, some of the stuff we're seeing isn't brought on by the augmented reality glasses, but is clearly just in her head, and she's driven insane by her own past. But again, it's never explored enough for us to justify that sort of interpretation either. So really, it just
open up. Like they open up during the opening credits. There's that whole there's like a senator or something on TV talking about education and how we have to educate the kids, and like just random things just thrown at the wall to hope that like something sticks, basically. And I think that's actually, like why like her getting murdered also, or her dad getting murdered also is the same thing. Just throw stuff at the wall. Let's get somewhere.
The stuff with the senator at the beginning reminded me a lot of the beginning of Satanic, where we got those random clips of stuff about Satanism that had nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Yeah. It was two movies in a row where we did that.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't two in a row, technically.
Like who writes opening credits by just going, well, we got to give them something, so just put something on the screen.
Let's put something tangentially related to the topic at hand. I believe it's Ayaz's turn to pick the next film. I think
I'm searching right now for a movie.
Okay.
And I want to find something that's not a horror movie.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try even harder next time to get a true science fiction or fantasy film and not something that overlaps into the horror genre, because I'm tired of picking those. I'm
going to keep searching stuff.
I'm sure Eric will pick either a cartoon, some other form of family film, or a religious movie, because that's just what he picks now. I
wouldn't say that I have a religious movie on my queue, but I do.
Even Satanic falls into that category in a way.
That's fair enough.
Well, that was I think my pick.
Yeah,
this one looks terrible. No, I can't do this to myself anymore. I gotta find something that's short. I can't handle this. Oh God.
I remember when I looked at one movie and I was telling you guys that I almost picked it, and then I saw it was 3 hours long, and I knew that Ayaz would kill me.
Well, I wouldn't finish it. That's the problem.
Yes. Well, yeah, and I was
this
like,
could be bad.
I'm not gonna fucking watch a movie where I know
Yeah.
I'll watch the whole goddamn thing and Ayaz will give up after 45 minutes.
Yeah, why would you put yourself through that?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so what are we watching, Ayaz?
Okay. Oh, do I want to do this?
Just pull the trigger,
Yeah.
dude.
Okay. Vampire Dog.
Vampire
God.
Dog.
Wait, I thought I picked the family movies here.
I wanted to be
Aces-
able to put
Aces-
something on that if I watch it at work, I'm not gonna have a problem with this. It's a family
Oh,
movie.
man,
Ace is
this
cute,
looks
cuddly,
amazing.
and 600 years old. So naturally,
Yeah.
he tends to attract some real oddballs. So
No,
Vampire Dog.
Ayaz, hang on a minute, man. You got to read that the right way. All right, so this is the way you have to read the synopsis. It goes like, Ace's new pal is cute, cuddly, and 600 years old. So naturally, he tends to attract some real oddballs. Vampire Dog. You'll wish you're dead.
He's already undead, so it's perfect. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I just
Vampire
added it.
Dog. I'm already apologizing. This is a movie's actually longer than the one we just watched.
I bet though that more shit happens in it though.
Yeah. Okay,
We
so
watched a-
top review here. Me, the wife, and the grandkids just watched Vampire Dog, and we all loved it. A great comedy with some action. Good family movie. This sounds like a winner. That was James Welch Henderson from Arkansas. I didn't know that.
And let's point out.
That in review? Wait,
Let's point
he
out that we.
explicitly added that to the review. Sorry, I'm amazed by this. Like,
Let's just point out though that we have picked upon occasion some movies that have genuinely entertained us. Not always in the way they intended to, Miami Connection, but it is possible for us to pick movies that we find genuinely entertaining. It hasn't happened frequently, but it has happened once or twice since we started this.
this is
Thanksgiving was amazing.
That's true.
Well, yes,
This
Thanksgiving 3, however, was fucking awful. All it was fucking puppets and nonsensical scenes that had nothing to do with each other.
Okay, review number 2. All I gotta say for Hollywood, California is look out to Canada to surpass you in making quality movies. So not only is it about a vampire dog, it's Canadian. This is gonna be amazing.
Maybe it's a vampire dog that bites you and then says sorry. We can add this right next to yoga hosers.
Yeah.
So just out of some of my friends found out that I do this show. I tried to keep it a secret,
God.
but they found out. No,
We're
some
sorry.
of my coworkers over at the Georgia Renaissance Festival figured it out or heard about it, and so they started asking me questions about it. And then there was a point where someone was made a Juggalo joke, and I said, "Let me go and get my bottle of Faygo," and then they're like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "Faygo, it's the drink that Juggalos drink."
Yeah.
And they're like, "How do you know this shit?" I'm like, "Well," and they said, were you a Juggalo? I'm like, "No, you dumbass." Like, I know way too fucking much about the Juggalos because we watched 2 fucking Insane Clown Posse movies for Podcasts Without Pretense. They went, "Wait, there are Insane Clown Posse movies?" And I said, yes. So I decided to just go back and look because I was like, I don't even remember where in the history of us doing this fucking nightmare of a segment we started doing these. The first one we watched was Big Money Hustlers, and it's like the 3rd movie we watched for Podcasts Without Pretense. The first movie we watched was Troll 2. The second
right.
movie we watched was Rock and Roll Frankenstein, meaning we hit rock bottom at the very fucking beginning of
So
the
fast.
goddamn show.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd movie we watched was Big Money Hustlers.
Yeah.
And then Death Racers came like 20 episodes later or something.
It was all uphill from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I mentioned,
think I knew a lot about ICP before we watched those movies.
well, I knew a
mainly
little
just-
bit
Yeah.
from things like
I
how
mean, you
the
get
fuck
bored, you look up Insane Clown Posse, and you're like, these people are crazy. This is great.
Well, and also they used to wrestle for WCW, so I knew about that part too. But yeah, it's one of those things where they were shocked to learn that Insane Clown Posse had made a couple of movies. I said, well, really, they've made at least 3 because we've watched 2 out of the 3. The third one, by the way, is available on Amazon Video. So my turn is coming up after Eric's.
Which
Big
movie is it?
Money Hustlers. Actually, that
What is
one's
it
Big
called?
Money Hustlers. Big Money
Right.
Rustlers is the one we watched because that was the Western. Big Money Hustlers is an even lower budget, worse quality movie than Big Money Hustlers was.
Big Money Hustlers from the year 2000. Big Money Rustlers is from 2010, which means they gained 10 years of movie making experience by the time we watched Big Money Rustlers. So they're going to be even more raw.
So
Big Money Hustlers in about 2 weeks.
just something to look forward to after Eric's Christian movie, whichever one he picks. I probably won't pick it because I was also the guy who did not finish Big Money Hustlers. Or Rustlers, rather.
Rustlers.
I was the one who
And
did.
the ending
I was
of
the
that
one
was
who-
amazing. You,
Oh, no,
you
I skipped-
missed a
I skipped-
good ending.
No, I skipped to the end.
Right.
I remember I got to the part where he hooked up with the little person prostitute.
Oh, yeah.
And decided
And then
that was enough.
I skipped ahead to the end and then I watched the end. And I only have a vague recollection of the ending, so which I'm all right with. I don't need to remember more.
Yeah.
I could watch the episode, but I don't think I will. But yeah, we won a couple of new fans from the Georgia Renaissance Festival because there are a couple of other lovers of bad cinema and they absolutely adore how tortured we are from these movies.
Well, we have a lot of episodes, so
Yep. So I look forward to Vampire Dog just to see, like, I mean, it might end up just being like, oh, ultimately that was just a cute, bland movie. That might be how it turns out. And honestly, that'll be fine. As long as it's not boring, as long as it's not like Let's Be Evil, then there could be some entertainment value there.
I'm basically imagining Wishbone, and if it's anywhere close, I'll be satisfied. That's
Well, my dad.
I do know that, Jonathan.
books and-
I do.
Yeah. Well, that was something else that my coworkers at the Georgia Renaissance Festival were shocked to learn because I keep forgetting this, right? Like by the time Dad started writing books in the Wishbone series, so he didn't write for the television show. He wrote some of the accompanying books that were written for young adults. By the time the whole series started coming out, I was too old really for the show. I would watch it occasionally. I thought it was cute, but it wasn't directed at me. I was above that age range. But I keep forgetting that most of my coworkers at the Georgia Renaissance Festival are 10 years younger than I am, at least.
Yeah, they all watch Wishbone at some point. Yeah.
Right. They all totally know who Wishbone is, and they flipped out when they found out my dad writes for that series. So that was it was entertaining to me because I just keep forgetting that other people really got into that show and loved it. So that was kind of fun.
Okay.
I think that sounds like a natural end to the episode. I'm ready.
That was like
that
was like an unnatural end because it just went into silence.
I think I should have gone into the ether. I was just thinking, didn't your dad do some King Kong stuff too?
Yeah, Dad wrote. He wrote a book called Kong, King of Skull Island, which is it's a book with illustrations by Joe DeVito, who he actually came up with the idea for the general storyline, and my dad was the one who fleshed it out and turned it into a book that has all these amazing illustrations in it, courtesy of DeVito. And then they ended up doing a second set of books that got crowdfunded. So those are in development now, I think. But so Dad's done King Kong. He also did Are You Afraid of the Dark? He wrote for Star Trek. He wrote for a whole bunch of different stuff. And of course, he's written tons of stuff that's just his. But he's written for other series as well. So Dad's got a long career in writing for young adults and for adult readers. That sounds dirty, but it's not. Just readers above the young adult age range.
He writes young adult and adult novels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'm just waiting for the one day the Wishbone Kong crossover book. I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Wishbone, King of Skull Island.
Wow, that's gonna Wishbone gets like irradiated, gets gigantic, and then takes on Kong. That's a good way to go.
Sounds plausible.
Like it just walks up to that enormous gate that's on Skull Island where all the natives live behind the enormous gate and just lifts his leg and pees all over it.
Yeah.
It's my territory now, he says.
That's right. Exactly. Like you go to the way I would do it is that the explorers land on Skull Island, and the first thing they encounter is an enormous poop bag.
That means there's a enormous person cleaning up after Wishbone?
No, it's just that's the whole tribe. just wrangling enormous shits into huge poop bags.
Oh, that's what they're doing. Okay.
They're being responsible to the environment. No. That's no tent. That's a poop bag right there. Yeah.
What is this monument you have built for him? No, we're putting away shit.
Yeah, we're literally trying to take care of the shit. It is a legitimate problem on Skull Island.
All right, so next time we're watching Vampire Dog, which I won't forget.
Yep.
Which you can watch anywhere. I'm pretty sure I would bet $5 to anyone watching this. There's probably no nudity in this coming up, by the way. Minus the dog.
Turns out there's going to be tits 2 minutes 30 seconds in. just like the opening of both Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving 3. It's just going to open on a close up of tits, and there'll be a naked pilgrim.
It is Canadian. It's not a U.S. film, so maybe a little more forgiving. Yeah.
All right, I rescind my bet right now. Should there be any nudity of human nature? It's void now. Never happened. You had your time. Shall we look to the future, guys?
Sure.
Next time on Podcast Without Pretense.
Guys, I just got back from Toronto and I can report tits aplenty.
It's time again for Eric's phone free activity of the week, and today it's writing on paper.
So I couldn't read anything after I did it. I'm not sure if I've ever been able to read my own handwriting.